All right, we're back. Apparently we were having some technical difficulties there, so I have no idea how much of part one there actually got on there. But we're back.
Excellent.
And for those that are just starting off and with this video, we are at the Sandler Training headquarters in Calgary at the office of Hamish Knox, the legendary Hamish Knox, writer of books and saver of lives.
Oh,
a saver of business lives as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking sort of the history of what got you into Sandler and whatnot. You've been in it for about 7.5 years.
Yep.
And Hamish, what has surprised you the most about Sandler? Where I mean, you drank the Kool-Aid early on. You're like, oh man, this is the stuff.
Yep.
I'm in. But along the way, any unexpected aha moments?
Wow. What's always unexpected is, because my business is human behavior, human development, is how our clients will take what we teach them ostensibly for selling or management or leadership and apply it in other areas of their life. And so I had 3 different conversations last December with 3 different completely unrelated people. And they said, oh, I thought you were just a one-on-one sales coach. And to your earlier point, yes, okay, I'm bad at marketing. So they don't.
Well, Sandler, I'm putting that on Sandler Corporate. Dave Mattson, if you're listening, get that marketing thing figured out.
And I said, yeah, you know what? Totally fair. Can I share a story with you? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, we're very big believers in goal setting and goal achievement and supporting our clients to whatever mountaintops they want to get to. And we do vision boards. Last session of every year, sales session, leadership session, everyone's got to stand up and share their vision board with their colleagues, because our belief is there may be someone in the room who can support that person with achieving one of their mountaintops. Right? They might say, hey, I know somebody, or hey, I got tickets to something. And I said to these 3 different people, I said, yeah, we had people stand up in a room and say, I need to date better. I need to love myself more. I need to spend more time with my kids. I want to date my spouse again. I got to eat better. I want to dance at my kids' weddings. I want to exercise. I'm just a one-on-one sales coach.
So you are a cult.
Yeah. We're a group of like-minded individuals.
Oh, all right. We're not a bike gang. We're a motorcycle enthusiast.
There we are. Exactly. Exactly.
The 2 main parts of Sandler, one being the sales training, learning the submarine. The other is sales and management. Now, at what point did you start shifting your focus towards or have you shifted your focus to sales and management?
So I, about 18 months in, it was kind of forced on me because one of my colleagues had closed a national account, and they had a sales leader in Calgary who they wanted to put into my sales leadership program. Okay. And I didn't have one. So I started one, and that is my focus. My focus is on working with CEOs, owners, presidents, VPs of sales, primarily headquartered here in Calgary, but of course sometimes we'll have a vice president or a director who's a division of a company headquartered somewhere else. So that's my primary focus, because they're really the leaders of the organization, and they're going to hire, fire, and hold people accountable, and all of those underlying foundational concepts that really make Sandler work. The sales training's awesome, and what we teach our clients in the sales program is awesome, but without leaders being actively involved, it all falls apart. Because as you mentioned, in part 1, it's a couple hours a week. And so if a salesperson is coming in for a couple hours a week, and then they go back and there's no reinforcement, there's no coaching, there's no accountability, there's no role playing, it's eventually they're going to go back to their comfort zone, because they're going to listen to the person who cuts their paycheck or has the ability to hire and fire them more than they're going to listen to me, no matter how much they love the stuff that I'm teaching them.
What happens when you don't have buy-in from the owners or sales managers, and they say, yeah, just take my be my surrogate sales coach or sales manager, take my sales team, and I better see my numbers move.
Right.
But they won't show up themselves.
So the short answer is, and I say this as gently as possible, well, who hired the salespeople? The long answer is we typically don't work with those clients.
Yeah.
because one of our core values is lead dog has to set the pace. It's got to be active involvement, not verbal support, because I've been in sales since I was 19. I've been through plenty of flavor of the month initiatives, training, CRM, et cetera, et cetera. So if the boss just says, yeah, I met a guy at a conference once named Hamish, and yeah, you're going to go see him for a couple hours every week, it doesn't work, because the salespeople go, well, if it's good enough for us, but why is it not good enough for you?
Yeah.
And there really has to be that accountability and that reinforcement. And you had mentioned, I want my sales numbers to go up. And that's the model we go off of with our clients, is as is versus to be. Mm-hmm. So you're here from a people, profit, revenue, closing percentage, whatever the metrics are. What's your to be? Where do you want to be 2, 3, 4, 5 years out from now? You're going to get part of the way there anyways, or most of the way, because you're awesome. But what are those gaps you have to cross in order to get to the mountaintop? That's really just a base camp for another mountaintop. And how can we support you? Are we the right fit to support you? And oftentimes what we discover when we're talking to the leaders is there are underlying foundational reasons, like no hiring process, learned helplessness, not knowing how to coach effectively, no common sales language, that are underpinning problems with the salespeople.
Do you find that to actually implement what you teach in real life on the street, that a corporation needs a cultural shift before it'll actually take root?
Yes, because your corporate culture is the behavior that's improved implicitly or explicitly. Companies can do all what they want about their corporate culture. Human beings are animals. We don't like to admit that but we are. And animals have no capacity to process language. So if a leader stands up and says, our culture is accountability and fun and productivity, et cetera, and their behavior is not that, there are people who are going to say, oh, well, I'm just going to follow what they do instead of what they say.
Yeah.
And because we are in the business of human behavior and putting rigor and process and, for lack of a better term, science behind behavior.
You have to lead by example.
You have to lead by example. And that's where so yes, it is a cultural shift, which sounds scary. Mm-hmm. But culture is behavior. It's not pretty words on a page. It's not what you did at the 3-day offsite. It's the behavior that is approved implicitly or explicitly. It's
not the logos that you have on the wall.
No.
Like in the training room,
Totally.
And the cool sayings and the it's what you do.
Yeah. Do you live the process is what we say to our clients.
Yeah. And do it in a repeatable, consistent, predictable manner.
Right.
That's
right.
Leadership. That's parenting too.
But absolutely.
Parenting is supposed to be leadership.
Totally it is. And if the behavior is consistent or the activities are consistent, the results are consistent. Because we can't control whether or not we get the close. All we can do is position ourselves by saying and doing everything under our control to win.
Right. With Sandler,
mm-hmm.
How does it affect somebody's leadership? Like because if somebody's at the top of the pyramid,
sure.
If they've built a company from nothing, they got
right.
50 employees, they naturally, well, of course I'm a leader. I'm a good leader. I mean, look what I built.
Yes.
What's the difference? What are the aha moments in your management course when people start to self-examine whether or not they are actually a leader?
Initially, it comes down to communication style, which you brought up in part one, right? How do they communicate? Because all of us are self-interested, right? We all communicate the way we like to be communicated to. And most people in the organization are not that way, typically. And so the first aha is adapting their communication style to make sure that their message is actually getting through as opposed to falling on deaf ears. And the next one is actually giving strokes. And so stroke is a psychological unit of recognition. There can be positive and negative strokes. And what they come to discover is a lot of the behavior problems that they're noticing, whether it's in the sales group or another group, typically come down to someone who's not getting their daily stroke quota. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of leaders, especially leaders who are maybe more technically oriented, the common response is, well, but I pay them to do a job. Why do I have to give them an attaboy or an attagirl for doing their job? Because they're a human being.
Yeah.
And because they're not you. And you don't need as many strokes because you're wired differently than they are. But they're the type of person who is going to need a high five for, finishing the report on time, or publishing the blog post on the schedule, as opposed to, you would just say, well, I just did my job.
There's every sales movie that's out there portrays the sales team in a pretty negative light.
Of course.
Glenn Ross being one of the classics, with Alec Baldwin up there going, "Coffee is for closers."
I said that to a client recently in a training session. And they said, "Really?" I said, "Well, I just expected you to pick the whole carafe up and take it with you."
Well, what is the biggest shift from the old style sales that everybody is sick and tired of, and does it even work anymore? The old style high pressure manipulative tactics. Can you describe how it used to be as opposed to how you teach it?
Sure. And so to address the does it work, the short answer is everything works. The cliche is a blind squirrel finds a nut sometime. And the fact of the matter is that everything will work occasionally. But what it comes down to is it consistent, repeatable, and scalable?
I guess it means by what you mean by work too.
Yeah.
Like if for you work is I got the deal, then then I guess it worked. But if and how I've always run my real estate business is that worked means that you're going to come back to me.
Right.
And that you're happy.
There we go.
That's worked.
Exactly.
If I got the deal, but I know I'll never see you again, that was a lose.
Totally. And that's where it comes from, that win-win conversation we had in part one, which is if I walk out of an interaction, whether we decided to work together or we didn't, and I feel okay about myself, and if, you independently went to that other person and said, how do you feel about that interaction with Hamish? If they said, you know what, we chose not to work together, but, I respect him. He's a human being. I respect him as a human being. That's a win. And then to your point is long-term client relationships, right? That's, even in a commodity type sale, we don't want to churn and burn because there's not enough people out there to keep our business growing long-term. We need to create those consistent, repeatable relationships. We're all built on a foundation of rapport, which is trust and credibility. And so the way it used to be was, people were not that informed. We didn't have the technology to be informed. So we would be more likely to fall for, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, really. And fear, uncertainty, and doubt work. Again, they work every now and then. But what we really teach our clients to do is have a mutually agreeable conversation about what do you need? What are you trying to do? What is your payoff? What is your pain points you're trying to resolve? Here's how we typically solve those. Is that something that you would like to continue going down the path? If not, shake hands, part friends. No for now does not mean no forever. But if it does fit for you, let's move down the path together.
What are some of your standout success stories of clients that came back to you and said, so Hamish, been doing this for a year or so.
Yeah.
And this is where we were.
Yeah. And
this is where we are now. And thank you, Hamish and Sandler Training.
Yeah.
Is there any standout stories, any specific examples, and you can save the names to protect the innocent?
Absolutely. So, well, there's one in particular. In the first 12 months we were working with them, their EBITDA, their earnings before interest, depreciation, taxes, and amortization. I did that a little bit out of order.
Yeah, that's all right. I know what you're saying.
It went from 2.8% to 9.3%, and that's their key measure.
So that's their profit margin.
Profit margin, yeah. So basically tripled in 12 months.
Tripled their margin in 12 months.
Another client, we've been working together about 4.5 years. Since we've started working together, they've 9x'd their revenue.
9x'd.
Yeah.
Now, is there any one area that you can point at? Is that closing ratio? Is that what could you point to?
Several things actually. So number one is consistency in prospecting, because previously it was pennies from heaven, right? Like, and you'd stumble your way into somebody and they'd say yes. The other side of it is asserting their rights as equals in the sales process. So
equal business stature.
Equal business stature, yeah. So previously, they're in a business where there's lots of players, and it's similar to real estate. And it was pretty much give me a quote and we'll get back to you if we want it. And they started saying, well, no, we or we'd be happy to, right? Sandler said, always be happy to do whatever your prospect wants under your terms and conditions. So we'd be happy to, if we answer these few questions first, make sure we're a good fit. And then the other part of it was, and this is going to sound really silly to some of the viewers, they started asking for money up front. And that's a really big aha for a lot of our clients is, one of the Sandler rules is the bottom line of professional selling is going to the bank. Mm-hmm. But we often forget, and our clients know that they need to pay us. They know that conceptually.
Yeah.
But until you actually put it down and say, like, okay, if you want us to execute here, we need to get a deposit here, they don't think about it. And so that was another part of their success is they started asking for a substantial percentage up front. It may have been 50% up front, and they got it.
Yeah. And without bullying, this
is our process.
What's the difference between being aggressive and being assertive?
Win-win versus win-lose.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to say, we say to our prospects, we're easy to work with, but we follow a process because that's what we teach our clients, and we want to have integrity with what we teach our clients. And so you're welcome to tell us that you don't like our process or that the process is not a good fit for you. That's fine. But what I've discovered recently is human beings don't like to say no to each other. There's too many social contracts built up. So I had a client recently, and this is an existing client. They've been working with me for going on 5 years now. We're about to have a case study published on our work together. And they called me up and said, hey, want to put a salesperson in your room. I said, okay, when? And they said, well, the next time you start your next group of foundational students. And I said, well, that's like a week and a half away. And I said, oh. I said, do you still want to do it? And they said, well, oh, sure. And I said, okay, here's the thing. I'm going to give you some information. It may come across sounding like handcuffs. It's just data. You choose how to react to it. And they went, oh, I'm going to steal that. I said, go ahead. But that's the thing is we've got to take away that anxiety from our prospects and from our clients because, oh my God, we're a salesperson. Mark's going to close me. Uh-oh, I better not tell him how much money I have or what my process is. No. Just be straight with each other. You said it earlier, truth. Yeah. That's all I want is the truth.
Yeah. Either we're a fit or we're not, and either way is perfectly acceptable.
Exactly. I had an interaction recently at a networking event and ran into someone and they said, oh, hey, I attended a talk you gave recently. I really liked it. I said, oh, thank you for attending. What stood out to you in the talk? And they said, oh, I know you're just using your moves on me. And I said, no, actually, I'm really genuinely interested to know what stood out to you in my talk.
Yeah.
But again, that's, he's the sales guy.
Yeah. And what did stand out?
You know what? I think they very quickly moved on. They may have just been being polite, social, very, very simple niceties of like, oh, hey, I loved your stuff. And didn't really have anything to back it up, which is fine. Still love them.
Isn't there a rule in the Sandler community that we don't use it on each other?
Yes. We very much say to our clients, and especially because, as our clients get to know each other, they become accountability partners. Some of them do business together. And what I say to them is, listen, you just don't do it to family, right? We're all family here and you all know the moves. So follow the process, right? Make sure you're setting an upfront contract, but play straight with each other, right? If someone asks a question, genuinely answer the question.
Don't reverse them.
Let them qualify you. Don't just beat them up for a quote. Let them follow their process, which is the process that both of you are learning from me.
Well, if you follow the process, the bottom line, it's a truth filter.
Right.
And maybe it looks all great and shiny, but maybe we shouldn't be doing business together.
Totally.
And that's okay. What's the most dangerous prospect?
Oh, the one who just says, hey, we're always interested in learning more about fill in the blank. How about you come in and do a lunch and learn, or, I'll take you out for coffee or buy me a cup of coffee. Those are the most dangerous because they're just they're up here. They're intellectual. They're not emotional. Yeah. And they're tire kicking. They're looking to gather information from you. And as salespeople, the only valuables we have are time and information.
Yeah. So protect them.
Protect them. Absolutely.
Put them in a safe.
And the thing is, you will get prospects who will get frustrated with you because they're used to a salesperson showing up and throwing up and answering all their questions and dancing to their tune. And when they say, hey, we'll give you a call in a couple of weeks, the salesperson goes, oh, okay. and there's no equal business stature, there's no assertiveness. And so when you do start to, sound different than every other salesperson, you're probably going to run into some prospects who get frustrated. Say, well, just don't you want my business? Well, if this is our first date and this is how you're acting with me, I don't really want to get married to you.
Yeah, that's it. It's funny. Everybody and their dog is looking for their market differentiator. But would you agree that the only true market differentiator is how you interact with somebody?
How you sell, not what you sell. Exactly. That's exactly what we say to our clients is all of you are commodities in your prospect's eyes. And I know all of you are different in your own eyes, but you're not selling to yourself.
Mm-hmm. And when the prospect feels like they're just a bag of money for you, there's
no credibility.
That's no credibility. It's not much of a relationship.
No.
It's like a woman feeling objectified.
Mm-hmm.
You're only after one thing. And if you're only after one thing, that's all you're going to get.
Right.
And it's not going to be a real relationship.
Totally.
On leadership, that sheet that you gave me, the leadership blind spots. Anything you want to share on that?
They're normal.
It's normal to have blind spots.
It's normal to have blind spots. And especially for two types of organizations, ones that are looking to scale or are already in scale mode, right? They're already rapidly growing. And the other one is the organizations who are maybe at a bit more of a mature stage and are, possibly the owner or the shareholders are looking to transition out. And for the first group, the scalable group, I had a CEO in my room one time for a discovery conversation, and they were beating their chest about 300% year-over-year growth and adding 30 people a month. And finally, when they took a breath, I said, "You feel like you're running up a set of stairs that's falling apart behind you?" And they went, "Oh my God, yes." And I said, "You want to put some concrete under those stairs?" And they said, "Can you do that?" I said, "Maybe, but it's going to be really expensive and it's not going to happen overnight." And they said, "What do we need to do?" Because when you're scaling, you're just throwing people at the problem, solving, delivering what clients are looking for. Happens a lot in oil field service, right? I'll do a cold call and like, "Oh, all of our iron's out on the street." And then I circle back to them 6 months later and they're telling me that they're not getting the margins they want.
Right.
And the mature company, when you're looking to transition, that's a really emotional conversation to have, right? Hey, I founded the business, I grew it to a certain point, I'm looking to exit. And what I have heard from business sale consultants who get businesses ready to sell is the biggest fear of a business buyer is when the key owner, shareholder, executive leaves, does that sales engine, that economic engine go from 8 cylinders to a 2-stroke? And what they have told me is the more systems and processes that you can put in place, so your sales engine is basically like plastic blocks, where we can pop the owner out, the previous owner, and pop a new owner in, and the sales engine pretty much rolls. You end up getting a higher multiple, which for a lot of owners is a pretty nice way to retire.
What's an ideal client for you? What would that look like?
So right now it's CEO, owner, president. We call them COPS, Chief Executive, Owner, President, headquartered in central or southern Alberta. So essentially Red Deer South. Who's got 2+ salespeople. Now, will we work with solo entrepreneurs? Absolutely. Will we work with larger companies? Absolutely. We've got a $500 million company that we're working with right now, have been for 3 years or so. But when I'm out prospecting, I'm looking for that CEO, owner, president who's got 2+ salespeople and could have multiple offices across the province or across the country, across the world, because they're usually the ones who are looking to grow, they're ambitious and driven, and they're humble enough to say, "You know what, I'm awesome. I bet I could be more awesome with the third-party support."
If somebody's watching here, say the Terry Stevenson from Vertex.
Sure.
Okay. A $1 billion company.
Yeah.
At least it was.
Yeah.
In this economy, who knows?
Sure.
But if Terry was watching right now and he was a bit curious, like, okay, what's the first interaction like? Are you gonna use all your Sandler tricks and put me in a headlock, or like what's gonna happen? Are you gonna lock me in a cage, poke me with sticks?
Yeah.
What does the first interaction look like?
First interaction is typically over the phone. It's 20 minutes or less, and really that conversation is to get to know each other at a very macro level.
Okay.
And also for me to understand what are some of the problems or opportunities that Terry would be looking to solve or realize with a third party support, just to give me something to hang our next conversation on if we want to do that. Now, if we do want to move forward, and it's always okay to say no, both for me and for them, we have two different paths. Some of our prospects, especially the ones who are a bit more technically oriented, the engineers, the IT side, typically want to sample. And so we invite our prospects to come in as a guest.
Okay.
Sample the product, sit in as a guest for 2 hours. We take a break halfway through. I leave. They're expected to talk to our clients, get the good, the bad, the ugly of what it's like to work with us, and then stay for
social proof.
Social proof, exactly. And then stay for about 10 minutes afterwards to debrief and determine whether or not they actually want to move to the next step of discovery. And that's the other path. Some people want to go just directly to discovery because they've got a need to talk to somebody and see if we're a good fit. And that's a discovery meeting. We sit down back here at my place, because if we work together, we're going to spend a lot of time at my place. We book 90 minutes. We may not need all of it, but I don't want to rush things if we're into a good conversation. And it's one meeting.
Typically, when you work with clients, what are some of the major issues that they're trying to solve? Like, what are the frustrations and things that they're concerned about when they come to you?
Lack of accountability in their sales team, and that's the underlying issue. What they'll say is productivity or closing rate, or the top of the funnel is too thin or something like that. Really, what it comes down to is a lack of accountability and a lack of clarity on their sales process. Usually, they don't have a sales process documented, and so the sales team's all running off their gut, flying by the seat of their pants. So that underlying sales process and system foundational aspect. Turnover in hiring is another common challenge that we hear a lot about. Hey, I've had too much turnover, or got the wrong people on the wrong seats of my bus. And the other one is corporate vision. Right? Okay. Everyone's got a corporate vision, right? At least in their head, right? Everyone's got a concept of like, hey, I kind of want to be here when I grow up. But really to lay it down and say, okay, what's your base camp? Like, where are we now? What's your mountaintop 2-3 years? And then what are those like camp 1, camp 2? Like what's going to show progress along the way? Oftentimes that's not very well defined. And from a leadership perspective, then the leader's number one job is to create clarity. And if they can't even create clarity with themselves, then they have a real problem creating clarity with their team and then effectively leading and managing.
You can't communicate something that you don't know.
Not at all. And human beings love certainty, right? Human beings crave certainty, and which is why, when you said what's the first interaction, I said a conversation of 20 minutes or less, not 15 to 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And if it's 6 minutes, it's 6 minutes.
If it's 6 minutes, it's 6 minutes. We may discover that we're not a good fit right away, give each other time back in our day. And as leaders, that's our only valuable is our time.
Do you find that you ever run into owners that say, I have no damned idea what my sales staff are doing or what they're spending their expense accounts on. Mm-hmm. I don't know where they are, where they're putting their efforts. They're just out there, and I'm hoping for the best.
It's rare, but yes, it does happen. Most owners, especially entrepreneurs, have figured out that no matter how good the widget or the mousetrap or the piece of software that they've built is, they've got to go out and sell it. Mm-hmm. And so they have a little bit of an understanding of sales is important, but oftentimes where they gap is they go from marketing to selling. And there's this little bit in between called prospecting, because marketing is everything that happens before you say hello, right? Marketing gets you to hello. Prospecting is what happens after you say hello, where you determine whether or not you actually want to keep talking.
Yeah.
And a lot of salespeople think that they need to sell when they're prospecting, like at trade shows or networking events. The selling happens after we agree that, yeah, maybe there's a good fit. Let's explore this. And whether that's a one-call close, one of my clients, their sales cycle is 12 minutes. From hi, nice to meet you to where's your credit card, it's 12 minutes. And I've got another client who, from the time they say hello to a prospect, they're probably not getting a purchase order for 24 to 36 months.
Wow. That's a long sales cycle.
But they're following a process, and they know where they are in the process, and they can coach each other in my room because they have a common language.
And whether it's 36 minutes or 36 months, it's the same sales process.
Exactly, because processes are time agnostic. A process just says you must check these boxes. So if you can check them in 36 minutes, hallelujah, close the sale. If it takes you 36 months, that's okay, because the pressure is on the process, not on the person.
Hamish, I appreciate you doing this with me today.
Thanks for inviting me, Mark. This is a lot of fun.
You bet. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do it?
So easiest, well, LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. I publish an article on LinkedIn once a month, or once a week, sorry, on Sundays. Or hamish.sandler.com is our website.
Okay.
That's the easiest way to fill in the contact us form. Or if you don't remember the URL, just Google Hamish and Calgary. There's not very many Hamishes out there. I believe to this day I'm the only person, place, or thing on Amazon called Hamish. So if you don't remember the URL, just search for Hamish and Calgary, and I've
Googled Sandler Calgary. It seems to work.
And that's the other one. You can Google Sandler and Calgary.
Not Adam Sandler.
Not Adam Sandler. No, we're definitely not Adam Sandler.
No. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
All right, Hamish.
Take care.